Oops. Or am I not? Can people see me? For some reason, Oh, so you can hear me. What the hell is the happened to the video? Why am I not? Just give me a sec. For some reason. I don't know what's happening. Give me a sec. Okay. Okay, for some reason it actually reset. G'day guys. Christos Anestis and Chronia Pola from your friend Harry. So usually we do with the three fingers, sort of our cross. Anyway, let's get on with the program. So yes, today is Pascha for the people of Orthodox faith. So it's our Easter. Easter usually coincides once every 4 years. Has to do with the orbits of the moon and between the old and new calendar. So that's what happens. Anyway, let's get on with it. I hope you like the introduction. Gold. Be nice to each other. You guys are getting stuck into each other a bit from the get-go. I also was a bit delayed because I was getting my coffee sorted as well. So, you know. Yes, sure. There, when it comes to the Greek Orthodox faith, there's a lot of mysticism. You know, it's a faith of which isn't sort of. It's probably the reason why we say, you know, within our faith, to that which is God's, and that which is Caesar's is Caesar's. That separation. Faith is a different thing. This is a fallen realm. We survive within the fallen realm. We don't basically, you know, it's not what guides us. We are guided spiritually by our connection with God. So, you know, I don't try and find truth in this fallen realm. Now, through using of science, we can understand how this realm works and operates by the laws laid down from its initial creation. But beyond that, yes, it's sort of a holy stream. It is, after all, Pascha today. And this will be a shorter stream. It'll only last for about 2 hours because I have to be somewhere else. Ah, yes, holy than holies. Hail the meat god. No, this is the non. This is the real church, the true church, not the misanthropic one of the Church of Anorexia Vegana. Canola bars. Oh, God. G'day, Jared. Brutal tubbies. Oh, God. What? You guys are really being nice to each other. It is a holy day of Pascha today. You should be nice to each other, you know. Even I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be grovelling all over T1 when he turns up. Yes, he is. Yeah, I'll send you a link. I just didn't even send Lukey a link. So I sort of bit of a rush. Just last week, I've just sort of been involved with too many things, family wise, and other things like that, and sort of been all over the place, all over the show. Didn't even get around doing any of the videos that I said I'll try and get done, but it's just far too busy with too many bloody things. And that's away to you, Jared. Sue. Yeah, Richard. Nothing like some good background music. God, I was a serpent. Serpanos to you. Sunday school. Yeah, could be. Could be. Zombie. Could be. Now, kiddies, be nice to each other. No, I don't want the title. I'm not going to comment. I know how Shell thinks. Oh, we're having a festive day today. Festive day. So I ended up making carnivore ice cream for today's event. So I hope it actually turns out well. It looks good. It's sort of really thickened up really well, and it looks like it's there. But I'm just we'll see the result. I'll actually take a photo of it when and see how its consistency, and I'll show it next maybe tonight on tonight's live stream. But yeah, it's still in the fridge at the moment. It has to be for 4 hours minimum. So yeah, that was my connection issue. Yes, from darkness to light. It's not that like today outside. It's not that sunny because usually most of the you see the sun on my face or the it may come out. It's sort of trying to, but there's a lot of overcast at the moment, so it's still a bit dull today as a day. So interesting. I hope the sun picks up. It's supposed to, but currently not. That's it. Sounds very plausible, trouble. Very plausible. Slap. Good idea. Yeah, it does actually, as retinol deficiency. It sometimes, even though I select it, doesn't take it for whatever reason. I had to unplug the actual webcam, replug it in, and then reset it. So weird. But anyway, there is another one that I use at work. I may actually bring it home and test it one day just to see what the differences between it as well. I actually emptied a few things out of that room, so I'm getting into the process of emptying more stuff out. And I've found a couple of different companies that actually sell stand-up desks as well. So I just have to make up my mind which one of the three I want. So I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm sort of keen on one of them more than the other two, sort of, but I sort of want to get a few more reviews and stuff like that and check it out. Just make sure, when you're paying quite a bit of money, these are expensive things around the, $1,000 plus. So you want to make sure you get the sort of right sort of desk. So yeah, I'm still, trying to make up my mind. So I've been taking a few things out. Had some stuff that was still in their boxes that I hadn't, and a few of them related to other type of cooking and stuff like that. So I gave those away to my brother. I think he's going to pass them on to others. So, I mean, it's, brand new. It's never been taken out of the boxes, so might as well go to another home. Getting there. I'm halfway through cleaning out that room. So I've used it as a storage room. So I've uncluttered all the other rooms and I've cluttered that one room where I stuffed everything in there. And now I'm just going through and finding things and going, okay, I can pass these on, or I don't really need this. I'll give it away. Or there's a couple of clothes that I've thrown in plastic bags, so I'm going to take them to one of those organisations that sort of collect clothing for poorer people and stuff like that, so get rid of all that sort of stuff. Even the old stuff you can still, because I actually get natural fibres like wool, cotton, stuff like that, so they can pull those fibres apart and actually recycle them. So so I usually have two bags, one with good stuff and one with stuff that's torn or damaged or whatever, and they can use that as what do they call it? All the threads. There's a name for it. Rags or something along those. It's the rag trade in America. It's called, but there's another name in Australia that we use. I just can't bloody remember. Yes. Hope you enjoyed the music. Oops. I think I stuffed that one up. Hungover, you're too bright. Not hungover yet. Thank you, Shell. Dad's boiled he's boiled his basically Greek eggs. So they're actually real eggs, and they're actually boiled with a red dye signifying Christ's blood. So that, I don't mind those eggs. So they have a slightly different taste. So it'll be interesting. Taurine with food. Bottle says take some meals, vitamin D. Yep. Yeah. When it comes to the B vitamins, remember, guys, 3 months, only 3 months, and make sure the pantothenic acid is the lowest, 50 or below. It's one thing that I'm always concerned about: too much pantothenic acid. That's the problem, one, because it stores, and you will have some levels of storage already there. And that's the reason behind it, where the problem lies with pantothenic acid. I did a video ages ago with Bart on storage of pantothenic acid. It's on his site somewhere. So it was an old study going back years. It's like some of these old studies that actually look at mechanisms that have just been forgotten in time. We've sort of, because most of the research now is all on pharmaceutical garbage. Yeah, taurine is really good. Taurine is really good for kidneys as well, for clearing out kidneys damage. So very important. But also those senolytics that I talk about, fisetin is really important. And because fisetin also does interfere with mTOR at a certain level and a few other things, I don't like basically taking them continuously. I think it's a 5-day, then nothing for the rest of the month, then 5 days, then nothing. So 500 milligrams per day. So a big hit, clear out a whole lot of cells, and then basically allow mTOR and everything else to basically take all that material that's basically due to apoptosis, all the aminos that are moving around. You need mTOR then to basically put it back into new healthy cells. So that's the thing. And I usually basically throw in right after that a bit of niacin deliberately to basically push the sort of stem cell activation. You can take cerule as well right after that. I would not take cerule with fisetin. It would be separate. So fisetin, then cerule, or then niacin, sort of following. So because of the way some of the things that it closes down, shuts down, or suppresses, that fisetin does. So it's supposed to be taken for a short period of time. So short duration hits, then allow the body to do its little tricks. That's I need to make a proper video, so because not everybody's most people are going to miss this sort of stuff in the live stream. So just for people that have asked me and are desperate for the information in that regard. So yes. Interesting. These boys, I sent Lukey and Jared a link, but they still haven't turned up. I did forget, Yes, he has. Thank you, Honest. Luke is evolving into a Brazilian Chad. Okay. If you say so. Interesting. G'day, NDC. So, yes. Yes, but this time it's a carnivore ice cream. It's a good ice cream. It's a low-carb carny ice cream. So the only non-animal food in it is a teaspoon of vanilla, and it's basically real vanilla, not the bullshit stuff, real stuff. It's a real extract. It's fucking expensive as well, but anyway, you only put a very small amount. So that's the only portion. It's for the hermetic effect, Honest. We need a bit of hormesis. Got to come up with some bullshit justification. That's just gives it the flavour. That's all it is, vanilla flavour. The rest is BS. So little, insignificant poisoning from a plant. Yes. So what's the deal with vegans saying rice and beans are complete protein? Valid? Nah, they're not. And even they don't combine as complete proteins. That's why their utilization is extremely low. So the bioavailability is low. So it's half that it's actually at the same level as the vegan protein powders. So the vegan protein powders have got a bioavailability of 17%. It's fuck all. The rest of it basically gets converted to sugar, because if you don't have the right balance in the amino acids, the best balanced amino acids are in eggs. They have even better than meat, or dairy. Eggs are the most bioavailable, and least and the highest utilization is in eggs out of everything. Eggs are just, when it comes to protein, they are the bee's knees. When it comes to protein, the top. Then it's meats, and it's all meats. Fish meat and ruminant meat is very similar in terms of bioavailability and utilization. There's not much difference, and it sort of makes sense because all animals in nature, would have, they're not plants, would have a similar amino type profile as just their structural material, the way it's built. But obviously, because you've got connective tissue, which is slightly different, the way its structure is, it's got more glycine and stuff like that, more the collagen type amino acids, so there is a variation, and that's why you have that slightly lower bioavailability. So you could actually combine meat with bone broth and you'll get much higher bioavailability. It's a bit like eggs. So there's the collagen amino acids there. So it's a much better profile in that regard. Where with rice and beans, you may get some of the essential amino acids at the wrong proportions, but on top of that, there's none of the collagen stuff either. So that's why it actually has such a poor effect in terms of both bioavailability and utilization. So it's piss poor in that regard. So yeah, useless crap. I think there's a company out there that actually is making, they've made some formulation, I can't remember their name. They've made a formulation. It's a very expensive supplement, but it has something like 90% utilization. It has, the profile is just perfect for every tissue. Well, this is what they claim anyway. So I've seen one study that they refer to, and I think they paid for it. So until we get independent studies, I'm not going to promote them because they could be bullshit. So at the end of the day, I would say prioritize eggs and ruminant animals and some fish, and you'll be fine. So yeah, but it's just bullshit on bullshit from the vegan kill cult society. I mean, you're never going to get from them any sort of decent, thoughts. Most of the time, they're brain fogged. They can't come up with something half decent. This is not an Orthodox. It's it's a nutritional side. At some point, I'm going to do like a special thing on Orthodoxy, but separate. I may even actually talk to Bobby or Tristan and see if I can do a collab with them on Orthodoxy. But I don't want to basically do this as sort of nutrition. It's just because it's Pascha today for Orthodox people. That's why I put that intro for that reason. It wasn't necessary, but I felt that I should freely express what my faith is to you guys in that regard. So, hello, Jared. So, that was basically my thinking, but this is not the forum for that, and we've got limited time, and that would take far longer than basically. It would be a drawn-out conversation of talking about Orthodoxy and talking about all the nuances and all the differences and some of the historical stuff. So it would become a very long conversation. Probably most people would be half asleep, the ones that aren't interested to come here for nutritional information. How are things, Jared?
Not too bad. How about you, Harry?
Good to hear. Yeah, pretty good. I was just bloody busy as with too many things currently. That's the only thing. On liposomal, Sarah from Busy Superhumans hasn't responded about adipose versus regular absorption. Is Macola liposomal okay? Herb only about the iHerb one. You mean only about 1,000 IUs? Look, I don't know the one that Sarah promotes from that British site that she's associated with. That guy's a doctor who's really cluey about making supplements, and I forget his name, but he basically, his liposomals, I think, are around the 30 nanometers, I think. I'm not sure. She'd have to confirm that. The one on iHerb, it is a pricier one, but I've actually got confirmation from the company that I've actually communicated with, and theirs is 25, around 25. They don't guarantee that every single liposomal will be, because there's production things. So on average, there's 25. So 25 nanometers. Sometimes it can be less than that, sometimes larger than that. But 25 is the average that they've actually come. Now it's below the 50. So if anything 50 and below is perfect in terms of bio, for people that have got malabsorption issues, it's perfect. Anything between 50 and 100 is okay. And anything over 100, I'd give it a miss. Anything over 150, you can forget it. You're not going to absorb anything. It's going to end up in the toilet. So the majority of brands are 100 and below. There's very few brands that are basically 50 and below. It's because it's expensive to produce. This is why the iHerb one, has these low, if you were to take basically the full 10,000 or 5,000 IU dose, it's damn expensive. About the Macola one, I have no idea what they're, you would have to contact the company. I find Macola's products are a bit on the pricier side compared to some other companies. Maybe he's basically, because he doesn't sell as many, so that can be supply and demand and all that sort of stuff, and costs of production. So bigger companies have a better footprint in terms of turnover and stuff like that. So I don't know what his cost structure is. So I can't comment about people and say, I know a lot of people will say, oh, Macola, just expensive because he wants to make a whole lot of money. Well, it may not be exactly that. My family's been in small business, and we know that, when you do a small batch of anything, the cost goes up. It's just simple as that. So, so I don't know enough to basically comment about his product, but I can comment about the one on iHerb. I've definitely checked that one out, and I've verified it, and that is 25 on average for all their liposomal products. The ones in Britain that Sarah's involved, I think, are around the same sort of level. They may be about 30. I know they're definitely below 50 because she said that before in some video, or I can't remember whether it was a chat with Bart. I'm not sure 100%, but I know that it's low, so it's below 50. So that's good, Then really which one you buy between the two is pricing. That's up to you. I'll leave that to you. John, it's not for me to tell you. It's your money. That's why I have an aversion to basically promote anyone's products. Unless I've checked it and I've used it myself, I usually don't direct anyone to any specific product unless I've used it myself and I know that it's good in that regard. But I don't necessarily promote. I don't get any payments, and I'm not interested in promoting So I know some people have said, oh, why don't you try and get a promotional and get discount? Nope, not interested, because I keep my site clean. It's basically me, my opinions, the best understanding of the science, and that's it. It's not for me to tell people how to spend their money or who to spend it with or stuff like that. That's not my style. I haven't actually tried Carnivore pizza. I've tried Keto pizza, but not Carnivore one. I know it's with a lot of cheese and all that. Probably one day I'll probably have to give it a go and try. I do like pizza, and I've missed it for a long time. So I know there's a lot of cheese involved, and actually, to be honest, I did actually buy some pork rinds, like from iHerb, a whole container. And I actually got two, and I actually gave one to Ling because she does a few things like that, and I kept one for myself, and it's still in my drawer. I haven't used it, and it was for the pizza, for the Carnivore pizza. So at some point I'm gonna make it. I said to my mate, because I've made the ice cream for today for the Easter, but I said, maybe next time we have a barbecue, I'm gonna bring a Carnivore pizza thing, and we'll give it a try. And he said, yeah, why not? So he's got actually a pizza oven, a proper pizza oven, but he now doesn't use it for that purpose. Oh, well, he does for some of his relatives, but he primarily uses it for like cooking certain meats in a certain way. Like he did some roasts in there in that oven, and they were really nice. So yes, because it's basically one of those. It has similar like wood fire type way it works, and making actually a roast in that. Oh, that was really nice. He made actually one for us, sort of a pork and a lamb roast.
Mm-hmm.
I
haven't had proper Carnivore pizza, but last year a couple of times Corinne made I guess we call it a minimally offensive pizza, where it was fermented tomato sauce with proper 2-day fermented sourdough crust and these sorts of things. So it was very good. I just basically just make it a really thin crust and put a very little sauce on it, and the rest is just standard Carnivore fare: ground beef,
sounds good,
bacon, sausage, summer sausage, pepperoni.
I'll have to say, even in my bad old days, my favourite pizza was pepperoni. Shitloads of pepperoni on it. So It had to have like packed large piece of pepperoni. So I didn't really like the other pizzas, So I mean, occasionally, I'd eat some of the other pizzas, in my bad old days, but
just pepperoni was not my favorite, but I could handle just about any other flavor as long as pepperoni was present.
Fair enough. I mean, if there was nothing else around, like there was the old vegetarian, or there was one of the other types of pizzas and all that, like the Hawaiian with pineapple and ham on it and stuff like that. Occasionally, I'd eat those in the past, but for me, if I was actually paying out of my own pocket, it would have to be pepperoni.
Yeah.
I used to go to this Italian mob up in North Hobart, and the behind Capital, people know that in Hobart, where Capital is, they actually use their olive oil, their oil base that they use in their pizzas is from Sicily. It's basically olive oil, so they're not using seed oils and crap like that, like a lot of the other companies out there. So if you're going to have a cheap pizza, that's the place where you can guarantee they're going to be using olive oil. I mean, they showed me because I asked them years ago, what's the oil? Oh, we get it from the old country, bang, extra virgin olive oil from Sicily. So, and you notice the flavor, because it's got it, when the olive oil is green, has that green high sort of antioxidant type, it has a different flavor to the actual crust. It gives it a very different flavor. And it actually accentuates the sourdoughness of it as well. So, and that's was the only type in latter years that I would cheat with. But it's sort of I've still got all my cheat stuff. I've got basically I've got carnitine in there. and that's for my glycating sort of side. So whenever I go out, I've got my lactoferrin, I've got my carnitine, I've got my alpha-lipoic acid, I've got all these sort of lined up, the low-dose vitamin E, and so, and that's how I used to basically do it, and sort of since the cardiovascular thing. So, yeah. But they've been sitting in there for ages. I think that I'm not even sure whether that carnitine actually is up to date. It may be even out of date now. So I may have to throw it out. But I had all that sort of stuff for those sort of purposes, little cheats, lactoferrin for the lectins and this and that and whatever else. Mm-hmm. Yes. Bad ODs. It's just basically we're just used to them. When you've eaten certain foods for so damn long, it's it's always you see them and just one sort of thing. Very easy to. But actually, yesterday, my mate was going, "Want a cookie? Want a cookie? Fuck off, Sean." He said, "They're really nice. I've tried them before. I know they're nice. Stop badgering me about them." So Luba grabbed them and just put them behind her back and said, "Nobody's having them." Gorgeous. Thank you. Somebody that's actually acting as an adult. Liposomal. Oh, that's... Did I actually...
You answered that one.
Yeah, I've already answered that one. That was just a follow-up. Yes. People are talking about their approaches and their recipes and the amount of time. Yes, Lukey, very much a heavenly intro. And where are you? I sent you a link. You actually put a comment in early and said, "Where's my link?" I go, "Okay, I'll send you a link." I forgot. Yeah, Diet Doctor's got a few recipes and stuff like that. That's true. Yep, they do.
Yeah, most of their YouTube content that they post tends to just be short recipe videos.
Okay. I haven't gone on. I do subscribe, but I don't have notifications from them turned on.
Right. I originally subscribed to them for Brett Sure just because he was doing a really good podcast for a while. I haven't seen them post any conversations since the pandemic, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, they keep their channel active at least.
When it comes to taurine, you need to get pure pharmaceutical grade, no fillers whatsoever. There's one on iHerb which I get, is a pretty good clean, and there's a couple of others, but it has to be basically pure, like 100% taurine, nothing else. Simple as that. And it doesn't, this sort of notion, some call it L-taurine, it's just taurine. This L thing, because basically, the duality of some of the other types of aminos, they can be differently structured. And as a consequence, there's Lukey. G'day, mate. They'll use the L, but pretty much, or the S. But taurine is just taurine. It's a sulfur amino acid. It has no other structure that is different. It's just taurine. There's no S-taurine, there's no L-taurine, there's no D-taurine, there's just taurine. So all the other letters that they put before it is just nonsense. I don't know why they do it. Maybe they're just trying to mask their fillers. Don't know. That's what I suspect. But if a company should basically say in its description, pure 100% taurine. So if they say that, it's fine, it's clean. The powder that I get is the one on iHerb, and that's pure. So if you do powder, there's only one there. All the other stuff is like in capsules, and they've got fillers, and I wouldn't touch them. So I just basically get the powder one and put it in with basically sometimes I put MSM, but I don't use MSM. It's on and off. I use MSM as a sulfur. I sometimes have to ease off because my hair becomes too thick due to the too much sulfur. Well, it does help. MSM does help, thickens your hair. So women that want really thick hair, they should supplement more with MSM. Simple as that. Because it'll go to the nails and to the hair and all that, where taurine will be used by other tissue as well. When it comes to dosing, it depends on your circumstance. I do about 3 grams. I used to do about 5 in the old days where I was clearing out. I am going in for another scan to check my lungs again and my heart. I haven't actually got my next. Well, my doctor hasn't sent me my thing for the cardiologist, and I suspect because my results were better last time, they'll probably put me on the low priority because it's a waiting list. So it'll take a while before I get it done at hospital. The other one's actually covered by Medicare, so I don't have to pay for it, and I can do that in the next week. I just haven't sorted out, organised it yet, but I can just walk in and just do it. So that's not a big problem, and that's basically my lungs. I had a lot of scarring in my lungs years ago. They found out that when I actually did my operation, that I had scarring and a lot of glassing in the actual lungs, especially on my left lung. But my last the 2018, which was a few years ago, 3 years ago, that showed a marked reduction in that. I put it down not to the carnivore diet necessarily. I put it down to taurine levels that I was using to clear out a lot of that scar tissue and all that. So I think if you've got a lot of damage, a lot of scarring in your kidneys, your lungs, your liver, or your heart. My heart scarring is completely resolved. I've got 0 from the 2019. I think it was November, around about November, that I did that other one. But the 2018 with my lung wasn't completely resolved. So I'd be interested to find out. I mean, I can jog up from the ground floor to the 9th floor without getting really bad shortness of breath or anything like that, or struggling like I used to a couple of years back still. So I'm hoping that that's cleared up by now. But I'd be interested, especially in this COVID period as well. I don't, so, and both also because of the collagen degrading enzymes, the fat soluble vitamins also play a role. So it's taurine and the fat soluble vitamins, in particular vitamin D when it comes to the lungs. Mm-hmm. So you basically get off them. If you've got a bad reaction from B vitamins, it's basically because you've got too many beneficial bacteria that are producing in your gut B vitamins, and basically you're getting an over vitaminosis in B vitamins, because animal foods are very high in B vitamins. So B vitamins are only to be used if you're coming off a vegan, vegetarian, or you've only been recently on a carnivore diet. So it's a good way of actually boosting the general B vitamin status. If you're a drinker as well, because you do burn through a lot of B vitamins if you're a drinker. Mm-hmm. So there are reasons and all that, and then the beneficial bacteria need to be supported with vitamin D, good vitamin D status. But once they get there, and it's the key thing that's causing the problems is pantothenic acid, B5. That's the thing, because it stores. So that's the thing. I just can't remember the damn study that off the top of my head, that I actually did a video with Bart Kay a number of years. What is it now? I think it was in 2019 that I did it. So it's quite back. So you'd have to really search for an old video that I did with Bart. So in one of the chats, I think it's in the chats. It's not the live chats, but the recorded chats that I did with Bart. So you'd have to go through that playlist and find which one it is, because I just, off the top of my head, I can't remember. And I actually show the study on the pantothenic acid being stored, and that's the problem. That it's, and some people's, a lot of the B vitamins are too high in pantothenic acid. Like, they should be 50 or below milligrams. They should not be above. There are some out there that are about 30 and 25. They're the better ones. It's just because most people have some level of pantothenic acid storage, and then and when the beneficial bacteria can't start growing again because of more vitamin D and B vitamins, they will basically start producing their own pantothenic acid, and some of those beneficial bacteria. And that's when you start getting into trouble, where you have too much food, bacteria, and supplements. So, yeah. So pretty much be careful. Drinking poo. Okay, I'll give that a miss. I'm not sure what that's all about. Is that to help the bacteria? Okay, let's move on. Interesting. I'm not even going to comment. Harry's partner's dad had diabetes. Harry, huh? Oh, partner's dad. Oh, sorry, partner's dad had diabetes too for decades. Doc just told him he has type 1. What would you do? I'd stick to basically a carnivore diet under those circumstances. The reason for that is you probably got, and taurine. I would take high levels of taurine and alpha lipoic acid to repair some of that damage. I'd also take a supplemental carnitine for the glycating effects, to reduce glycation. So let me just find the one that I actually used to buy. Hold on, I'll just grab it. Give me a sec.
The library of Harry's house instead of looking it up on iHerb.
So now you are running the show, it seems.
Did he say he's going to be moving his setup?
There may be better brands than this.
Move it over, Harry. We can't see it. Move it to the center of your camera.
Yeah.
You can't hear us.
This is more, the sort of...
Oh, God.
See, it's got a mix in this: acetyl L-carnitine, tartrate, raspberry ketones, and propylene L-carnitine. So it's actually got a sort of very much a mix type, but it deals much, from what the literature says, this sort of mix seems to deal better with some of the glycating factors. So a lot of the bodybuilders use this brand as well. But there's only 30 in that, and it tends to be a bit more expensive. So there's probably cheaper brands that are clean as well.
We could only see just the edge of the label because of how the camera crops to the center.
Oh,
held it
okay.
on the camera.
Okay, let me just find it. Have to find on iHerb because that's where I got it from. Yeah, I always, I know, because when you've got 3 people, it's sort of I forget about the narrowness. Damn,
it's okay. Another thing you might suggest, I guess, is Tim Johnson's channel.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah.
the
I
Smart
would definitely,
Diabetics Academy. If you're not
yeah,
aware of, I'll throw it in the chat.
yeah, put it in the chat, please. And what I'll do is I'll pin it at the top. That's the carnitine one. I'll just pop that in. Oops. Should put it under my name. Oops. So that is the brand that I get. Well, I used to, but it's only got 30 servings, so which is 60 tablets. You can just take. I used to only take one, but obviously, so there's that, and it's got a sort of a mix of the different types. But there are other brands. A mate of mine gets this one, and there was another one. Where was the other one? Can't remember whether it was this one or this one. Let me just check. It's got. That's right, the carnitine fumarate, and that helps the Krebs cycle as well. That one there. That's acetoL-carnitine. The reason why I use the other one, the one that I picked, is it has the best mix in terms of cutting both acetoL-carnitine, L-carnitine tartar, has this sort of a really good mix. This one, because that also supports the Krebs part of the cycle, but this one as well at fumarate. I'm not sure, and this is basically, where with the ATP side of things, I'm not sure in terms of whether this one is better than this one. This one may be better, but I haven't looked into it. I'll throw that in there as well. I'll just find. Yeah, you've got the Smart Academy. So I'll pin the Smart Diabetics Academy right at the top. So that's now pinned, and that's basically. I would basically definitely get somebody like Pim to help your partner's, dad. The other thing that is really important is that when you move to a state of diabetes 1, the issue there is you've still got a bit of insulin that you're producing. Your beta cells are still producing a bit, when you have a more carnivorous diet, what it does is, because of those extra aminos, it tends to basically it tempers down the glucagon side of things. So by tempering down the glucagon side of things, there's less of a risk of something like ketoacidosis. So I think that the carnivore diet is a much better diet when it comes to dealing with those hormonal things. Somebody with diabetes 1. Diabetes 1 is not a natural state. People don't basically, this is basically because of derangements that's happen and damage to the pancreas, whether at birth or after birth. So it's not a natural state. But and the biggest problem is when you have much lower protein in the system, what you tend to do is you tend to basically produce far more ketones. And some of the foods that other people may consume as well, they'll basically be pushing ketones up, and they'll be pushing basically gluconeogenesis up, or glucose production. And that can be an issue in itself as well. So I think a carnivore diet tends to temper the things down because it keeps the insulin to glucagon ratio in a more natural state of 1.3. And you don't need a lot of insulin because leucine plays a bit of a role there as well in managing some of those hormonal things. So I think the carnivore diet is the most appropriate for people with type 1 diabetes. But at the same time, if they've basically lost all functioning of their pancreas, obviously at that stage they will need tiny bits, because on a carnivore diet you only need tiny bits of insulin, very little. Because basically it's even a low carb diet or a keto diet will probably have a higher insulin to glucagon ratio when you eat, because you're still getting some carbohydrates. In terms of even low glycemic carbohydrates will temper up, like just carbohydrates on their own will give you an insulin to glucagon of 4. Meat on its own is 1.3. So there's that side of things. And I think that a carnivore diet will require far less insulin to manage. But the problem is when you've got a person that's already diabetes 2, it's probably nearly impossible to get them on a carnivore diet. At this stage, at least. So the best we can do is probably get him on a low carb diet. And I would say what Jared said, the best person would be somebody like Pim to manage a person on a low carb diet to basically, with some insulin, to basically manage their situation. Because you're not going to get any better at this stage. People will take a very long time. Once people start seeing results, then they're more willing to make other changes. But until that point, you've got Buckley's chance. So you need to get them through the door first of all before you can even recommend more radical approaches. So, and even Pim would agree with me that a carnivore diet is much better than a low carb diet. But you've got to get people through the door, and you're not going to get most people through the door with a carnivore approach. You'll only get them through a low carb approach because it's a bit more, it's out there. It's been out there for ages. It's more mainstream, much easier. And at the end of the day, does it work? Yes, it does. So we have to basically at least try and help people. But
the role that food plays in people's lives shouldn't be underestimated in terms of how difficult it is to move away or change at first, right? That there's that emotional component to the routine, the nostalgia, the socialization. And when you're telling somebody that suddenly they can't eat, 90% of what they're used to eating and what they probably derive great comfort out of both the food itself and also the routine of it. That's a huge shift that, like you said, most people aren't going to make that if you're telling them that that's the only option. So you need to compromise a little.
basically. You need to find a halfway house. Now, the things that you really need to put in there is obviously you need to deal with the glycating factor. So carnitine is an important element. But also you need to deal, this person would have been consuming a lot of seed oils. So you need to deal, they will start losing weight. They will start releasing a lot of free fatty acids in terms of PUFA from vegetable oils that they've actually stored in their adipose tissue. And as they release that from the fat cells, they will be poisoning their mitochondria and poisoning their body and causing more inflammation. Now, on a low carbohydrate diet, there's lower inflammation. But the reason why people, even on a low carbohydrate diet, suffer some level of inflammation is because you weren't on a species appropriate diet. If you're on a species appropriate diet and you actually engage the Randall cycle around the autumn period and late summer period by eating some fruit with some fatty meat products, you would store those as stable types of fats like monos and saturated fats. So when in winter you release them as free fatty acids, they're not a problem in your bloodstream. They're not going to cause any inflammation or anything. But when you're on an inappropriate diet, you've stored crap in your fat cells, rancid oils, and you release those, you're going to increase inflammation. That's where the inflammation is coming on a carnivore or keto diet, where people says, I'm on this, it's resolved most things, but not everything. Well, because you're basically releasing free fatty acids from your fat cells, which are toxic because they came from the previous diet and they are causing you damage. And you need to mitigate that. Carnitine is part of that for the glycating factor, advanced glycation end products. The other part is basically the Jarrow, the low dose vitamin E that I've talked about. So that's the other one, which is, let me just bring that up just for memory for people. Which is that one. Low dose. If he's diabetic, 7 years. If somebody's is non-diabetic but has some stored crap, 4 years, maybe 5 years. But in his case, 7, if not 10 years on this sort of stuff. I'm not bullshitting, guys. This is really fucking important. If you're releasing, this is where all these studies where they talk, where the repeat people say, oh, all this free fatty acid is full of PUFA and all that and damaging and all that. It's basically from the vegetable oil that you consumed in your past diet. That's what it is. You need this shit to basically mitigate it, which comes from palm oil derived, which is a balanced, proper, vitamin E. So it's got a low dose alpha tocopherol. We don't want high doses of that. And most of the other ones are tocotrienols, or the shorter ones. So you've got the long tocopherols that burrow right through, and you've got the smaller ones that are at the actual surface of the cell that basically burrow different as electron donors. So you need that. Yes. So, I know there are people out there that promote just tocotrienols. I don't. I believe in mixed. So that has this is the natural way it is from palm oil. It's a mixed vitamin E, a balanced mixed vitamin E. You do need the D-alpha tocopherol, but in a small amount. 19 IUs is all you need. So it's a small amount, low dose, because you need all the different. This is why I don't like the industrial stuff, like the supplemental stuff that people make. I prefer the stuff that comes from the natural product like palm oil, because it has all the different parts of the complex of vitamin E with different lengths of those little wiggly type. They're like that's what vitamin E is. It's like this little wiggly thing that burrows in different depths into a cell wall, into the bilayers, and what it does is it provides full coverage in terms of oxidation, you know. And obviously, if you're in a low carbohydrate state, you will have much higher glutathione, which means you can refresh those fatty acids, the vitamin E and the vitamin C. Anyway, so that is damn important in my book.
Yeah, I have 2 bottles of that in my fridge right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've just very recently stopped taking it because I've been doing it now for, you know, a decade. And I still have a bottle in there, and occasionally, you know, but then again, I'm sort of, do I need to really be taking it? I had it for my cheats. I don't even know, maybe even out of date now. I have to check it. But the thing is, I've done the 10 years, but I did the 10 years because I was quite sick. I had a lot of damage in that regard. So this year I'll be buying another one because I want to put myself back into a bit of deep ketosis and actually lose the remaining weight that I've got and get back to my weight of when I was in my 20s. That's my target weight now, to get back to the 20s. I've lost most of it to more than 2/3 of my weight that I had. And now I need to lose about 1/3 of the weight that are remaining until I can get back to that youthful when I was basically really thin as. And that's my goal for this year. And because I know I'll be releasing free fatty acids and potentially there's still some stored crap in there, I'll be supplementing on this every day. I won't be taking any risks to inflame myself any further or do more damage. I did plenty of that in the last couple of decades. Don't need to add to the misery. But yeah, so that's what I would do, John, you know, and basically also, you know, R-alpha lipoic acid, really important. You've got to get the R-alpha lipoic acid in there to heal the taurine. These are really important things and I would actually even consider choline, but you can get from liver and eggs, you can get plenty of choline. Just encourage him to eat more eggs because at least then he's going to get good quality protein plus the choline. So if he needs extra choline for dealing with fat deposits in organs, you know, choline is really important for that. And taurine is really important for clearing out the fibrotic tissue. So, but remember, he may be on blood pressure medication, and it does lower your blood pressure. So you need to go slow, and he needs to be checked with his doctor continuously to make sure that his doctor is adjusting his meds, his blood pressure meds. That's critical, John. You can't neglect that. You know, I'm not kidding you. That is really, you know, we don't want to put this person at risk. So you really have to be careful. I would go up to 6 grams because I know some people do struggle above 6 grams. Like you can go up to 10, but some people struggle with nausea and other issues, you know, or stomach issues and all that. Most people can tolerate 5 or 6 grams, but you really need to go slow. So you go 1 gram for a week, then 2 grams for a second week. Then before you go to a 3rd gram, you give him about another week. Then you go to a 3rd gram and then basically get the doctor to check and make adjustments before you go to the 4th, 5th or 6th. You got to be really careful, especially if they're on blood pressure meds. And that's about it. I will be making a future video a bit more comprehensive on some of this sort of stuff and getting into sort of the more nuanced areas. Um, 5 days fisetin at 500 milligrams, and then basically I would, with niacin, I'd basically do no more than 300, so 250 maximum, no more than that. and I would do that for about a week and then give your body the rest of the month off to basically just sort itself out, So I don't like pushing the body too hard. And in some respects, I would basically do I wouldn't actually do the whole week like on niacin. I would do the first day, then the third day, then the fifth day, and then the seventh day, and then I'd leave it at that. And that would be a 250 milligram. And the reason why I like to do the pulsatile thing is because I don't want to be pushing and it depends also on your situation. So do you currently, I think, DDocs, don't you currently have some issues with your kidneys? Is it you? I can't remember now who it is. Your kidneys, where you've got a lot of some growth factors and a lot of, like my father had, now he's reversed most of it, nodules and stuff like that. And I can't remember exactly all the stuff that you told, whether it was you or somebody else. I'm trying to keep track of all these other people's comments. Can you just remind me? Because basically, if that's the case, I would not take niacin at all. Because simply put, niacin does promote SIRT and PARPs, and I would rather naturally allow those to increase as C38 decreases over time. And the reason for that is they can have they can support. It's like fasting. Fasting before you've got cancer is fine. After you've got cancer, I don't recommend it because it can actually help protect the, be beneficial to cancer cells. The same thing with SIRTs, with PARPs and all that, all these other things, NAD can actually help increase proliferation. So under those sort of, these are not natural conditions, guys. These are not natural conditions. Cerule, stem cells, stuff like that also is contraindicated under these circumstances. If you've got, cancer, active cancer, I wouldn't do any of this sort of stuff because it basically can be hijacked by the cancers. We're trying to limit the fuel and we're trying to basically knock out the senescent and cancer cells with fisetin in a pulsatile way. And at the same time, we are trying to suppress, go and check my cancer one that I did. We're trying to suppress glutamate uptake by cancer cells. We're trying to not give it any other growth or cellular support structures because SIRT1, PARPs and all that, they actually help. They can help natural cells, but they can also help cancer cells. So, we need to approach cancer very differently, or growths. Yeah, if it's for prostate cancer, definitely not niacin. Do not take niacin at all. Don't take cerule, niacin, or any of that sort of stuff. Basically, just stick to the fisetin and the sort of the pulsatile effect. Do all the other stuff that is in that video that I've talked about for all the senolytics and all the inhibitors of glutamate. That's what you need to do. Plus, you need to get the fat-soluble vitamins up. So, vitamin D is really important for prostate because vitamin D and vitamin A are very important, and MK4. So I would be on the high dose of MK4, which is, let me just bring that up. So
was that the AOR Peak K2? I think it's called.
Yeah, that's the one. I'm just putting that on the screen. That's the high dose one. I'll put in the chat as well. Oops, there it is. So it's that one there. That's got 15 milligrams. Comes in 90 capsules. So that's the one that I'd be using. And also, I'd be using 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. If you're in the winter, if you're in the summer, get out in the fucking sun, depending on where you are on the planet. And also, I would be looking at liver, and I would be looking at eggs for my vitamin A as a cheap source, or otherwise, Rosita. Or otherwise, this brand A, so cod liver oil. It's the only cod liver oil that I basically recommend for winter. Downside, it is damn expensive. So I would stick to basically liver and eggs as your best source. Personally,
The Rosita also takes a long time to deliver. It takes like 3 weeks or something to reach.
I know. It takes ages. I always buy it before winter starts because it takes too bloody long. Because most of it, because it comes from Norway, they don't store a lot in locally or anything like that, so they have to order it in batches, and that's why, yeah. So it's annoying, but that's, but that also keeps the price down for high quality stuff.
Yeah, it's a consequence of getting it fresh too.
That's true. Yeah. You have to pay a bit more and have to wait a bit longer because it's the batches that are production batches. They don't store stuff for ages like some of the other companies do, which is a good thing. But the downside is there are a certain amount of orders in the system, and that's when they then start dispersing and producing and dispersing. And that's why it takes time. But, but that's the best thing. That's what you want. You want a product that's basically only had a small amount of time that it was produced and then delivered to you, which is more the way traditionally you would have had your cod liver oil. You would have made it in the village, and basically it would have been dispersed a number of people even in that village, that coastal village. And that's how it got around.
Well, Harry, it's 11 o'clock here, so I'm gonna head to bed.
I'm about half an hour away from pulling the plug myself because I've got to be somewhere else for the Greek Easter, the Pascha.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear you marking it. Devox, one thing before I go, I just saw you mention you're in Canada. I don't think that you can get Peak K2 directly from AOR in Canada, even though they're a Canadian company. I don't know what's with that. It's not listed on their Canadian website, only on the American one. But I believe you can get it through like iHerb or whatever. It's just going to have to go through another country to get to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the iHerb one is because you can actually put like on iHerb, you can put in front of it like UK or CA. I think it's Canada CA, isn't it for you guys? For the iHerb one?
Yeah, I think it's just ca.iherb. Let me check.
I think it's ca.iherb. Yeah, from memory.
It is. Yeah, ca.iherb.com.
Yep. Exactly. 17 essential nutrients. Very good shell. No, look. The reality is, I view organ meats as a multivitamin, and I view meat as a high quality, nutrient dense food. I mean, even carnitine, unless you're basically cheating and you need to basically mitigate, some glycating factors, you don't need a supplement with carnitine. Okay. You don't need to. You don't need to suffer. Unless you're eating lectin cheat food, you don't need to supplement with, with basically lactoferrin, do you? So all these, unless you're basically you're coming off an older diet where you've got stored PUFA and all that, you don't even have to supplement vitamin E. If you were born into a carnivore family, like the Maasai, like all these other right through, you're not going to have any of this toxic shit you have to deal with. Unfortunately, we're not in the same boat, the majority of us, because we've been exposed to a lot of toxic shit for a very long time. And so we need to use some of these methods. So when we're losing weight, we need a low dose vitamin E. When we're still addicted to certain things, we need to mitigate some of that sort of stuff with lactoferrin, with carnitine and stuff like that. It's not ideal, and it should be basically like a crutch or whatever, but sometimes there may be family members which are still doing certain things, and you go, well, until they wake up to themselves, I may give them a bit of carnitine, I may give them a bit of lactoferrin, I may give them a few of those things. So by the time they realise that they need to make changes, they're not as damaged as they would be. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's all nuanced in that regard. So, I mean, and that's why when people say, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing carnivore, I'm doing keto, but I've still got inflammation. Yeah, because you're releasing a whole lot of shit into your bloodstream that you were basically consuming a very long time ago and stored in your fat cells. That's why. And you're not mitigating it to some extent. So there are reasons for it. That's why we don't see, when we do studies of tribal societies, we see very little, the only time that they basically have any increase in things like C-reactive protein or whatever is only when they're exposed to certain pathogens in their environment, which is, tapeworm or, something like that, some sort of infectious, parasite or whatever. Otherwise, they don't. They have very little or non-existent, which is really important to differentiate. We need to make that differentiation because we don't make it enough. And in many cases, you hear all these people in the carnivore community jumping around and going, oh, it didn't work for me. I'm getting this effect or that effect or whatever. But they're not actually discussing things like how damaged are your mitochondria? What's in your fat cells? What were you doing before? All these sort of things. And that's where somebody like that understands these things properly will sit down and we're unfortunate and work out a best solution, a customized strategy for you specifically as a person. Where unfortunately a lot of the YouTubers out there, what they tend to do, they tend to basically jump on new bandwagons. And this is how we've seen the insidiousness of the repeats and all these other groups actually infiltrate our community because people have been making issues of things that they're not mitigating correctly or not understanding that it has nothing to do with a carnivore diet. It has to do basically with their past indiscretions and the past damage or stuff like that, which they haven't properly managed or mitigated. If you've got SIBO, if you've got basically gallbladder issues, you've got all these sort of things. It's not the carnivore diet. You're eating plants for shitloads of years and you've given yourself gallstones, which they didn't exist in the past when people just ate, tubers and meat. They had no gallstone issues. Now everybody's eating green leafy vegetables and all that. Everybody's got a gallstone issue, or kidney stones or stuff like that. Well, what have you been eating? So that's the thing. And most, when it comes to most people out there that have been consuming very little animal foods for a very long time, the amount of gallbladder issues goes up considerably. That's why gallbladder issues have gone through the roof around the world. And you can't blame then, I can't absorb properly fat. Well, you've been eating a lot of shit, haven't you, for a long time? That's when you need basically something like taurine and MK4 for the emulsification and the improvements in basically biosynthesis and stuff like that to fix that problem. And it takes some time. It can take a few years to clear that out without surgery, that is. So, and these sort of flushes that people talk about are probably ill-advised because if you get one of these stones stuck in the duct, you're going to be in hospital very quickly. So you want to emulsify those, you want to soften them up, you want to basically dilute them, and you want them over time slowly clearing out, becoming smaller, and that sludge together with those smaller stones being cleared out slowly. And you will get some discomfort as a consequence of that over time. And you'll go, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. Well, it's part of the cleaning up. Get used to it, I usually say, and stop blaming things that you've actually done in the past to cause that problem. Yeah.
All right.
What do you
people
boys?
People are accusing me of falling asleep behind my glasses. So
okay. Grandma,
I'm not. I'm much too polite for that.
Hey, he's chilled out.
No. Okay.
Anyway, mate, get to bed. You need to get to bed.
Yeah, thanks, Harry.
Which is good.
I will.
I think it's getting better because I haven't spoken to you. I need to chat with you.
It's about the same. It's been manageable. It's been about the same though. I would prefer more. I would prefer to see more improvement, but
yep,
I'm getting by.
That's the main thing. We'll chat later. I'll try and get something.
Rest well, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thanks,
exactly.
Luke. Okay. Have a good night, guys.
See you, mate.
See you, everyone.
Well, it's you and me, Lukey.
Once again.
Once again, for the next half hour or 20 minutes,
Harry,
to be more precise.
I don't know if you saw my comment, but yeah, I'm done with all my classes now.
You're doing what?
I'm done with all my uni.
Oh, you finished.
University.
The first one. Yeah, I did see. You remember when Restream starts? Not like StreamYard. It actually you lose all the initial comments. It only starts when it starts. So I didn't. But I did notice that when you asked me for Oh, congratulations! That's good. Well done.
Thanks. I feel incredibly happy. That's all I can say.
It's good to hear. How inflammatory is rice eating with chicken, beef, since carb eating, Randall cycle. Depends on how much you're activating the Randall cycle, how inflamed you're going to be. So if you eat too much and you blockade and leave too much sugar and fats, triglycerides moving around your bloodstream, being glycated by all that sugar, it's probably not a good idea. But if you're basically not, and it's being taken up, it's probably less of and it depends on how much exercise. Sometimes some people will eat some rice, they'll do exercise, or in the past, people ate small amounts of rice, small amounts of meat, and they did a lot of shitloads of physical work in Asia, and that's why they didn't have any problems, because they weren't engaging the Randall cycle. They were basically undernourished and working hard. So in many cases, they had muscle sparing effects and also a lot of autophagy and stuff like that as a consequence of that muscle sparing because of restricted calories. That was part of their, it's like the Okinawans, eat until you're 80% full, things like that. So it all is how much poison are you putting in and whether you're engaging the Randall cycle and at what gradient. So once you engage the Randall cycle, there is then a threshold where you exceed your caloric requirements that your cells can uptake. And once you do that, then these enzymes are downregulated at the cell and the uptake of energy is reduced. So as a consequence, there's more circulating stuff. And then depending on how much you add fuel to the fire, you will increase that resistance, the insulin resistance, or the Randall cycle gradient once it's activated. So the activation is on off, then there's a gradient depending on how much substrates of energy keep on coming in, following all that sort of stuff. So pretty much it really depends. If you're doing a lot of physical like weightlifting and stuff like that and you're having very small amounts of rice, it's probably not going to be an issue because it'll just go into glycogen. But I don't see the value of it. Waste of money, waste of time actually preparing it when nutritionally you're not getting much out of it, or energy-wise you're not getting much out of it. I'd rather get the energy from the fat and the rest of it coming from some of the adipose tissue, so you can both lean out and become more muscular. So like most of the tribal people, if you look at them, they're quite lean and muscular because they're on a species-appropriate diet. They're not eating kibble. It's only, remember, Mary showed that guy that was actually having issues, health issues, and he was a bit on the plump side as an African, very much untribal, and lived in the cities and eating more kibble. That's what happens. So I can't see the reason. It's the reason why a lot of bodybuilders today are basically muscular and fat. Got pot bellies and are muscular. You don't see the old bodybuilders that used to be lean as, and they did that on meat, on dairy, and on eggs. That's what they did it on animal foods, and they used them strategically in the appropriate ways. So after they did a lot of physical work, they would basically have the dairy component together with the eggs because of the leucine effect, but also the high bioavailability in terms of, you get from the small amount, because you don't get a lot of whey protein. It's not like concentrated. You get a small spike within that 90-minute, and right after the exercise, and after that, you've got more casein that's left in the actual milk product, which is a slow absorbing compared to the high, and tempers down insulin to enough level for muscle protein synthesis, no more. Because the reality is, actually, you don't need, it's leucine that actually plays the role. Leucine drives IGF-1, mTOR, and insulin to where it has to be at those low levels, and it keeps it there. And as long as you don't put rice in or stuff like that, your glucagon will go up. The moment you add rice, what you do is you basically force down glucagon and increase insulin, IGF-1, mTOR. You basically put yourself in a more anabolic state, but beyond the requirements for muscle protein synthesis. So the amount that's coming from leucine in the small amount will still build muscle, but the rest will build adipose tissue, fat. And that's why these bodybuilders are basically muscular fat nowadays. It's not accidental. It's because of the carbs, And then what they do is this other sort of thing is they use anabolic steroids. They use all these other stuff. That's why they're dying young as well, to become exceptionally big and all that. And that's what's killing them. No thanks. I think the bodybuilding competition, if you look at the old bodybuilders and look at some of the grotesque bodybuilders of today, they are not natural. They basically are grotesque. They're basically like monsters. They're not human. Look at the old bodybuilders of the golden age. They look like normal human, lean, muscular humans, which you could take your hat off and say that is an example of excellence in basically body composition and muscular, both strength and composition. Today's people, they look like fucking grotesque monsters. And the moment they finish, and they are really sick, these people. And the moment they finish competition, they bloat out like mad. They're all fat, like fat as, they bloat out like fat slobs. They are really unhealthy. That's what they're dying very young, in their 30s and 40s, where the old bodybuilders are still in their 90s and 80s and still alive. So
it's nonsensical.
John,
and
exactly.
you just look at them, and they don't follow the proportions of human anatomy. They are like distorted.
Anybody that thinks that looks good are basically need their head examined. They've got issues up here. As far as I'm concerned, they are a grotesque monster, and the whole sport has become misanthropic sport which is just basically promoting grotesqueness, pushing, this sort of grotesque size. Size is everything. And creating really strange, sick people, and a sick sport. It no longer has the values that it had for excellence in human performance. It basically, these people don't last very long. They're just being churned in and out of the system. It's awful. So, guys, please don't go down that pathway and destroy your health, your life, and your sanity. So, yes, they are. They are very much unique in the animal kingdom. Most people only need to get them from food. Let's be honest. Getting them from food is all you need. The only difference is, the only exception is taurine, because of the biosynthesis that it declines with age. So that's the only reason. And I think even it's probably the reason why we need it more is because we've got a lot of damage as well. Where older people in tribal societies, take a look at the guy that actually ran up the hill and Mary couldn't keep up with him, and he was 80. Now, was he supplementing taurine? No fucking way. And I suspect his own endogenous biosynthesis would have been higher than a younger person in the West. Why do the taurine levels decline with age? Higher senescence. It all has to do with senescence. We are having far higher senescence. This is why these guys, they go like this. They basically go like this and then drop dead.
Yes.
That means for most of their life, they live very good quality life, very strong and robust. Their bodies are very much, like the George V. Mann, when he did tests of the Maasai back in the 60s, he noticed that even people in their 80s compared to a young person had the same level of blood pressure. It did not get progressively worse. Why? Because you didn't have progressive senescence and damage. These people were basically just cell division, no more cell division, drop dead. That's what's supposed to naturally happen. You're supposed to basically grow old and then drop dead. We don't grow old and then drop dead like that, like a down. We basically decline over time with more senescence, chronically getting sicker and sicker and then die. That's the difference. And that is why our taurine level synthesis declines with age, because of high senescence, high damage and all that. And we all have it. I have it. I've probably got horrendous damage that I've done over all these years, and I'm trying to clean it all up. I wasn't born a Maasai. I wasn't born a Hudz. I didn't basically have a clean diet from birth until now. I had some years that were fairly good. The rest of my life was basically a complete and utter debauchery of smoking, drinking, and eating shit all day. So there's plenty of damage. That basically my skin looks better now than what it looked 10 years ago, and more youthful compared to when I was in my mid-40s, says a lot about the carnivore diet and the low carb carnivore keto type diets, that they are superior in basically, but they cannot reverse years and years and decades of damage that I've done to myself. That's going to require some biohacks, so throwing in taurine, throwing in all these alpha-lipoic acid and other things like that, the fisetin to get rid of, all that. Normally you wouldn't have to do these things, but we've got a lot of damage, a lot of senescent cells we need to clear out and actually restore better cellular function. And that takes time to basically at least take us out of the decline and getting more damaged, because the more senescent cells you have, the more these senescent cells create inflammation through cytokines that they produce. And so they damage even more cells. So damaged cells create more damaged cells and more. It's like a cascade effect. So what we're trying to do here is sort of, use things like anti-glycating things, things to deal with all the the damaged seed oils that are stored that are being released, so they don't do more damage. So we're using all these different strategies of all these supplements, which really we shouldn't need, but we're doing this because we're trying to mitigate the damage that's already present and the underlying elements that are there that we just can't magically remove from our body. And that's why I say to people, if you're young, the earliest you start a carnivore diet, the cleaner you keep it for the rest of your life, you will have that same effect, and then dropping dead. Going through your whole life, healthy, and then going, when you no more cell division, when your telomeres stop and there's no more cell division, you just drop dead. You have massive organ failure, massive tissue that no longer functions, and you just drop dead because it can't reproduce, it can't cell divide any further. That's how that's how we want to basically live and die, like our ancestors. Not chronically declining slowly over time, coming down over time, until we have a bag full of medicine and then we head for the morgue. That's how a large proportion of people in most developed countries and even some of the developing countries now are heading in that direction. It's awful, the suffering of people that is still happening. And I mean, they're trying to push us to 100% plant-based. We're sick now. Can you imagine how sick are we going to become if we continue on this road? It's horrendous.
Mm-hmm. Things are bad enough as it is now. I can only imagine what would happen.
Good cheese. Yes, look, it's exactly. I am more nowadays. I have to say, John. Since I found out more about what they do, I wasn't when I was having like a lot of yogurt, like a day of a lot of yogurt and all that. I didn't really have a lot of meat that day because I was satisfied. I had cheese and had some brie and and I just said, yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to have any more. And when I have like a big steak and all that, I don't really feel like a lot of dairy. So I was naturally sort of not using a lot of that sort of stuff. And that's why I could see, like my ketones or my blood sugars and all that was still in the sort of fairly okay range in that regard. So I wasn't really having any real issues in that regard. But now that I know more about how the Messiah and all that, I'm going, sometimes I'm mixing them, but I'm trying to keep them more separate nowadays. I think that even though sort of going to the lower grade, where the insulin to glucagon is kept much lower. Now, obviously, if you're having some meat with dairy, you're going to be pushing insulin that's slightly higher than the 1.3. It's probably going to get up to 2, maybe 2.5 or whatever. It's still considerably lower than the 4 of pure glucose. But is it better to be at the 1.3? Possibly. Is it always best to be at the 1.3 continuously? I don't know. I know that at 4, you can still basically not engage the Randall cycle and basically lose weight like the vegans do until they become nutrient deficient. So is it that bad to be at 2.5? Maybe not. Long-term, doing it for a long-term period, is it a good thing? We don't know. We've got no studies. So I'm just basically, as a security blanket, saying, let's not experiment on yourself, Harry. We'll leave other academics to do that in the future if they want to. I want to have a longer life. So I think I'll basically, be cautious, not throw cautiousness to the wind. So I'll be a bit more, and if I'm having more of a dairy-rich day, have a dairy-rich day. I don't have to have, the most I may throw in there on a dairy-rich day is probably more eggs. I need to get more protein in. So I will add more eggs on that dairy day. So I'll have shitloads of eggs. So I might have a whole carton of eggs, like 12 eggs, with my dairy and all that. But I am keeping, and it actually suiting me. Having eggs every day gets dull, I find it, where having like just a big damn omelette, like 12 egg omelette, and throwing in a whole lot of cheese and stuff like that is really nice. I can tell you, cheese and eggs, yeah. With salt and pepper, that is really nice.
For sure.
So So if you do that and have some other dairy products a bit, later in the evening, sort of, around about 6 o'clock, I'll have a bit of like a yogurt and stuff like that. Perfect. Finishing off my day. So that's what I'm doing more now in that regard. And so the other days I will have like a dairy and egg rich day. And then basically I'll go, yeah, fuck it. I'll do that twice a week now. And the other days, or sometimes 3 days, depending on how I feel. And the other days is basically just, it's usually, because I do 1 day fasting, so it's usually 2 days doing this, and the other 4 days is meat and varied meats. Usually it's twice heavy pork, and the other 2 are basically once lamb and once beef. So pork is more prioritized by me. I like pork more than beef. So 2 days of the week I'll have pork, 1 day I'll have beef, and 1 day I'll have either seafood or lamb. So that's, and the other ones I have the dairy and eggs combo, and 1 day that I fast. So for the whole day. So I just basically it's just water, salt water, and basically that. At most I may have a coffee, but beyond that, that's about it. I don't consider coffee with cream basically being. It's basically the one that I get is practically has no carbohydrates, extremely very little protein, and people say, "Oh, that little protein." Hold on. Autophagy happens at a pulsatile response. You basically kill off old cells. You release a whole lot of aminos into the bloodstream. Autophagy gets switched off. The body utilizes that, and autophagy starts up again. It's a pulsatile thing. So having a coffee within a pulsatile thing is no different. It's irrelevant. It's only when you when you have shitloads. And actually, coffee actually enhances autophagy. So the small amount of cream you put in there just to basically cut off the bitterness is irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. So I'll probably have 2 coffees in that fasted day, and the rest is just water. A bit of probably 1 or 2 glasses of water, maybe 3, depending on how hot it is on the day, how thirsty I am, whatever. So I just do it to thirst. I don't do it to basically just because you have to do a certain amount. It's irrelevant. It's stupid. So yeah. I'm going to do also a video on how to target. Yeah, or shredded chicken with cheese waffle. Yeah, I've heard of that. That actually works quite well as a base. People do that. That's true. You can actually also get those waffle makers, and people do that as well. They create waffle, carnivore waffles. I've seen that. Interesting. The things that people do. Yep. Plants definitely don't have that beautiful stuff. Crust, literally, and 5 minutes prepared, 4 eggs, and 4 cups of cheese. Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's simple. It's not difficult. That's true. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's really, really easy to make. All you need to do is just blend it together to some extent. Not over blend it, obviously. And then just make it into a sort of a paste and press it down, and then throw on the Pepperoni. In my case. Oh, that's the low carb. I actually did try the cauliflower one, but I have to tell you, I didn't like it that much. I really didn't. So yeah, I think we covered that before. I may have not shown that. Did I show that? I can't remember now. I can't remember. Did I show the? No, I didn't show the taurine one. Let me just.
Yeah, and there was someone asking about recommendations for a B complex as well.
So the taurine one is this one. That's the taurine one. Where is that? And there's the B. That wasn't that one. No, that's right. They changed their fucking formulation because there's the Doctor's Best. They changed theirs. They used to have a 50, but they've done the active one, but they've basically changed the level of pantothenic acid in it. That's the other thing. Even though you get one, I got caught out last time, you've got to actually check to make sure they haven't changed their formulation, because they have a tendency to basically change their freaking formulation. Because remember, I did this ages ago, so...
Yes.
And some of the companies that used to have methylfolate, they've actually changed them all to methylfolate and methyl and the B12 also. They've sort of shifted from methylfolate to folic acid, or methylcobalamin to cyanocobalamin. Some of the companies. It really pisses me off that they've been doing this, just making it cheaper.
Yeah. Oh God.
So you got to make sure that they are also the proper ones. think this one was the one that looks familiar. No, it's not that one. Bloody hell, where is it? Nope. Look, I'll have to find it and I'll have to pin it at some other date. So I can't remember it, but it has to basically have the right B12 and the right folate, and then 50 or less. So if you can't wait, Google it. Try and find one that actually has. Now, this is the one that I basically get. Let me just bring that up in terms of taurine. They're out at the moment on the Australian website. This is the one that I get. So it's 100% pure taurine, unflavoured, has no crap. It's just basically taurine as free-form amino acid. Nothing else. There's no fillers. There's no nothing. That's it. There's no other ingredients.
Nice.
More other ingredients? None. Zero. Zilch other ingredients. It's only free-form amino acid as taurine in its as basically a sulfur amino acid on its own. So, and that has basically 335 grams, which is basically will nearly cover you as at a gram. If somebody's just doing the low dose, just a standard gram a day, it'll pretty much will cover them for the whole year. If they're doing, 4 or 5 grams, obviously that's going to be less of a period. So 35 divided by, let's say you're doing 5 grams. 335 divided by 5 will give you 2 months. And that's not a bad price at nearly $20 Australian. It's probably less US, probably about 17 or whatever, slightly less than that. So, yeah. So basically, it's not a bad price. And this company, they really make good products. They keep their products pretty clean. They've got no other crap in them or anything like that, which is a good thing, So I think they were a bit of a hippie type company when they first started. Anyway, they're more corporate now than what they used to be, what their origins are. But they had a bit of a cleaner agenda in the beginning. Let's put it that way. At least some of their original products, like this one, are still around, which is good.
Yes.
Anyway, I am going because I'm already over the limit, and I have to be somewhere at 1 o'clock, which is about 17 minutes from now. So I have to go.
Well.
So that's it. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to answer everybody's questions. Plenty of things to be asked, but did I actually put the taurine in link in there?
I think. Oh, hold on. I think you did.
I'll do it again just in case I didn't. There you go. Done.
Yeah. Okay. There's
and I do believe it's on Amazon as well, but I don't know what the pricing. So do check, because in some countries it may be cheaper on Amazon than an iHerb. So check. This is one of the better products. I like taurine to be as basically clean, no fillers, no nothing, just as basically, and not bound to anything, because it's a sulfur. You don't want a sulfur bound to anything. You basically want the sulfur to bind to other things. You don't want it bound already. Okay, so it has to be free form, like this one, to basically be unbound, so it goes in and then binds to other things. So that's the critical thing. It's like in most foods, it's basically you get sulfur, same, it's free form, basically goes in and is used by the body in that regard. So if you see any sort of funny type of numbering systems or funny type of things, or say that it's, and other things in there and it's not pure taurine, don't buy it. Okay? It's only pure taurine we're interested in. So nothing else, unbound to anything, So clean, crystal clear, like a newborn baby, So basically nothing else added to it before we make a mess of it. Anyway, you know what I mean. Anyway, bit of a laugh, a joke. Thanks, guys, for being here. I'm 15 minutes away. I got to be elsewhere. I'm going. I have to take my ice cream with me as well. Ooh, looking forward to that. Anyway, guys.
Take care, everyone.
See you all. Bye.